So in the overall quest of getting better cooling and better protection, we might be looking for a bigger oil pan, more oil capacity. Unless you're going to, buy a new custom pan outright, which tend to be pretty expensive, you can maybe look at modifying the old pan or using a different pan like the 5SFE pan. Modifying the pans gets difficult because welding that oil-soaked metal is a challenge, and you end up with pinholes that you'll be chasing down for months that just end up with a little dribble of oil. How did I discover that, you might ask? Well, I did modify my previous 3S pan, welded in a large capacity 5S bottom section, added some hinged baffles, and it worked quite well, aside from chasing down those leaks for a few months, as I mentioned. Where the balance shafts were in the 5S section of the oil pan, there's the oil supply hole in the block that I previously had blocked off with a bolt and a copper washer. I'm going to use the mounting point for the balance shafts for a new windage tray, so I want that to be flush, and I'm going to simply weld closed that oil supply hole, and I'll show you guys. So I'm talking about right there, welded shut, so I can still use that balance shaft mounting point right there, the other one on this side, and the other 2 points on the other side to bolt on a new removable windage tray that is bolted to the block rather than permanently in the oil pan, not unlike the OEM windage section over here. This makes it easier to weld in a large hinged baffled section. It's one way, which prevents the oil from rushing out of the deep sump area during high-speed sweeping right road course curves, which can cause the oil starvation observed by other community members, yet allows it to return easily to the pickup area. All of this lets me use the readily available larger capacity OEM 5S pan and all its slightly dented glory. So I've got the main shape of the windage tray complete. I've also got basically a large baffle. It's going to have a hinged section that's been cut out already. I'm just going to put in a couple of braces just to give it some rigidity. One on either side. I'm not too concerned about aesthetics in this case. I'm going for good penetration in the welds, durability, longevity. I've got access to both sides so I can clean up the welds after. Windage tray is complete. I'll show you guys the fitment. So the gauge is a little bit heavier than OEM, but still pretty light and strong thanks to the braces. And then has the hinge baffle for those high-speed sweeping turns. The windage tray sits on 4 3/8-inch spacers at each M12 bolt location to give it the clearance for the rods at the crank journals. The closest point is right at this bend. The rod bolts clear by about 3/16 of an inch, which is also conveniently the strongest point of the tray. Frequent test fits are never a bad idea. Whoops! Now I'm done. Only a dipstick would forget about making the hole for the dipstick, right? And make jokes like that. I unreservedly apologize and will just keep on doing it. Throwing it on my scales, the weight of the new pan comes in at 34.79 grams. The old pan, which was a hybrid of the 5S and 3S pans, came out at 37.60 grams. So the new setup is lighter by about 3/4 pounds. The 5S pan doesn't have an oil return from the turbo, so we have to cut a new hole and add that. I am reusing the 3S fitting. More on how at the end of the video. I use tape to prevent any metal bits from hiding in the crevices around the OEM baffle. The oil return fitting placement put it right in line with one of the pan bolt locations, of course. So I drove in a longer M6 bolt from the bottom, turned it into a new stud, and used the nut. Now I just have to cut off the remaining bolt section. The 3S GTE one, this thread is something huge, metric, I don't know what it is. I do know that it's a 1.5 thread. A bell goes off, and I know I've seen that shape and that size before. We have a source of nuts that can back up this fitting into any oil pan. I'll show you what I discovered. I'm currently assembling all of the new powder coated parts. The engine is going back in, so stay tuned. Check out these other videos. And like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.